This is the Domain Magnet Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Beroslavsky.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining. So where are you calling from?
I am calling from Paramus, New Jersey, so we're right outside of New York City.
Nice. So we first met last year, and we were both speaking at that conference in Spain. And had a really nice chat, and turns out we have quite a few things in common. So I'm really glad to finally catch up.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've been actually involved in the digital space for even much longer than I have. Could you give us a quick background story, how you got started, how you started your first company, and how it evolved into the current business?
Yeah, definitely. So I started my first company way back in 1997. It was a web hosting company called T35 Hosting. For those who were involved back then in the space, it was around the same time GeoCity started, Tripod, Hypermart. I think I actually started a couple months before GeoCity. So that was the space that was started in, and the original idea for T35 Hosting, which is actually rings even true today, was to allow people to freely and instantly post something on the internet and have it be accessed all over the world. So right now, it seems silly to even say something like that because almost everything we do is like that. But back then, it was a whole different world. So back then, if you wanted to start a website, you would have to go to your internet providers like AT&T, Verizon's of the world. Verizon didn't even exist the way it does now back then. And they would have to provide it for you. And you would have to wait 6 to 9 months, spend like 50 grand, and that's how you would have a website accessible on the internet. So the idea with T35 Hosting, and similarly to a lot of the other free web hosts that cropped up at the time, is to allow someone freely to publish content that's accessible all over the internet and really allow anyone to do it, not just the bigger companies. So that was started in 1997, a long time ago. Well, I'm trying to count back how many years it is now. It's a little scary. So I started back in 97. I grew that to a little bit over 1 million customers before running into a lot of roadblocks and challenges. And funny enough, so T35 Hosting still exists. No longer providing free web hosting, focusing more on the business side of web hosting, but still same philosophy to allow anyone to host anything worldwide and make it affordable and stable and reliable. But at a certain point, it just the free hosting model for web hosting stopped working because of the amount of abuse that came up and a lot of other issues. So all the competitors I had back then actually don't exist at all now. GeoCities, Hypermarts, Tripods of the world. So it was definitely an interesting time. It was I sometimes say the internet's still the wild west. Back then it was like the real wild west. Like no one knew what they were doing. Everything was like all over the place, very experimental. So as the first company, after that I worked in a lot of different roles, digital related. I worked in a lot of the digital marketing roles, and I wound up at Publicis, where I did digital for Samsung for almost a year, and then Walmart for a couple of years after. And around that time, my brother was graduating Cornell, and he was running a SEO company. So he was running one of the first, like the old school, like link building SEO companies, like the ones like companies would get in trouble for. Like if you remember, if you Google it, 2011, like JCPenney got in trouble for hiring an SEO company that did some sketchy things. So that was the world he lived in. He lived in all of those, like the SEO consulting and everything. And he was graduating college, and he really pushed me to. Well, I think he pushed himself not to get a corporate job. I think that was from his end. But he pushed me to leave my role at Walmart and open SmartSites, which is where we run today. So we opened 2011. And the idea was to bring together a lot of digital components that we had expertise in, the web hosting, the SEO, the pay-per-click side, which I spent a long time on, and form really a 360 digital marketing agency that would provide the full 360 of services and really focus on small businesses. The roofers, the contractors, the guys out there that still don't have a website, still don't do marketing, really today I would call them the final holdouts, right? But in 2011, there was almost everyone in the small business space really wasn't doing too much on the digital side. So that was the idea, and we've been growing ever since. We're up to almost 100 employees now and 6 offices.
Right. So you just hit 100 employees, and how big is
we're about to?
how big is SmartSites right now in numbers, like revenue, profits, or any other figures that you mostly focus on?
So it's funny. A lot of companies are very shy about sharing these, and a lot. We're actually in a lot of like lists like Inc. 5000 and everything where it gets published publicly. So I don't necessarily have an issue sharing with it. It's in today's world, so much things are public, a lot more than people realize. So revenue, the way it works, so we work a little bit different than a lot of traditional media companies. So the revenue might seem a little bit off, but the way we work for managing media or marketing, a lot of the traditional way is that a company would pay their entire marketing budget to us, and then we would decide how to spend it. That's the traditional way. The way we do it, just for transparency and to better work with small businesses, is we only charge a management fee. So they're actually marketing, they pay for themselves, and we just charge a management fee. So because of that, revenue and everything might seem out of whack, but last year our revenue was 5 million. This year we'll probably land at 7, forecasted for 10 for next year.
And I know you provide a wide range of services, design, development, SEO, PPC. What's the main one by revenue or number of employees involved in it?
Yeah, so really good question. So I think it's pretty evenly split, even looking at it different ways. I think it's split between website design, SEO, and pay-per-click. I think those are the 3 branches that probably represent 90% of what we do. We do some very high-level development. That's also a very small piece. We do some small things like branding, like brochures, like all small pieces. But I think that the big pillars would be SEO, pay-per-click, and website design. In terms of, I think, a number of clients, in terms of revenue, in terms of employees. The website design component probably has more staff, if looking from that standpoint. But I think in almost all ways to look at it, it's split pretty evenly, a third, a third, a third.
Nice. So you have quite a few clients, and I know you have some big brands as well. So can you mention some of the biggest companies that are your clients?
Some of the bigger companies are the ones that we usually have NDAs with. But we, what I like about what we do is that we're not industry specific. So no industry represents more than 10% of our business, and we're literally in every single industry. And through that, I think we just work with a lot of cool projects. So we're finishing up a website for Harvard right now, Harvard University. On the automotive side, we work with a lot of both regular car brands, and we work with Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls-Royce. So I think we're pretty diversified across the board. Our focus is mostly like the small, medium-sized businesses, but I think over the last couple of years, as we've become more well-known, we've got pulled into a lot more bigger companies, more well-known companies. We're GSA certified now, so we could work on literally anything for the government. So we've really widened our scope.
So you have quite a collection of car companies, like people collect cars, and you kind of collect car companies as clients.
Yeah, so we've so it's funny. So the automotive world, so all industries are very different, and it's just interesting going from one to the other because each one just operates so differently. So in the automotive space, a lot of the people involved haven't grown up with digital. It's a lot of like the general managers or the true auto professionals that have given their the last 40 years in the industry just haven't had the advantage of growing up with digital. And because of that, I feel like they get taken advantage of a lot of times. We worked with brands where literally their marketing is being done by their cousin or something, and they don't know what's going on, or some company they've been doing for 10 years, but they don't have access, they don't have any data, they don't know what's happening. digital, there's a lot of data, but it's still very tricky to track down all the way down to like the car sale and things like that. So there's a lot of disconnect, and a lot of these brands and dealerships really, I feel like, have been taking advantage over the last couple of years by people and companies. So we've recently got involved in the auto space, and it's just been growing. Our side of it's been growing a lot just because of, we're not doing anything different, but we're doing the same thing we're doing for other clients for the auto space, and it just seems revolutionary because we're literally giving them access, we're sharing the data, we're literally having the conversation. Here's the data, you have access to all this, let's tweak this, and it just seems like a very new way of doing things for them. And I think at the same time, a lot of these brands are getting more educated on digital. So I think we're there at the right time, doing the right things. But yeah, we're involved in almost every single auto brand at this point.
Nice. So there's a question I actually really wanted to ask you. I feel that when it comes to a service-based business, it's you get some clients, and then you get more clients, and then you grow. But I feel that in order to really grow and get to the next level, you have to get a big client. And that seems like the most challenging thing. So is that, would you agree with that? And like, how did you get your first big brand, first big client?
Yeah, so good question. I think there's almost two really good questions within that one question. I think one is about growth, and I'll go to the big client one first. And I think for how do you get the big client, I think it's a lot different than the small medium guys. So we still don't focus on the big clients. So I know other people run agencies that have like 100-person company and they have like one client, right? Back when I worked at Publicis, the team that worked on the Walmart account was over 100 people, literally for one client. So there's definitely a lot of companies that's their model more so than it's our model. Our focus is still the small, medium-sized businesses, but I think the big clients are important, and I think the way to get them is a lot different. So that's something we've been playing around with and trying to figure out ourselves. The small, medium-sized businesses is a lot more fueled by literally the same advertising we do for them, which is like paid search. So for example, the small, medium-sized business, if they want a new website or they want pay-per-click or they want SEO, most likely they're going to go on Google and they're going to search, I need a website, I need pay-per-click management, I need SEO. And we spend money on our own marketing, and that's how we acquire that's the core of our business, and that's how we acquire all the small, medium-sized businesses. The enterprise space, as they call it, is completely different. Like if IBM wants a new website, they're not going to go on Google and type, I want website design, right? Or like website design company. So it's definitely, it's enterprise level hasn't been a huge focus for us, but it's always been very interesting to me because the whole journey for the enterprise clients is completely different. A lot of it's still very traditional. And what I mean by that, it's still driven by face-to-face meetings and networking events and like conferences and things like that. And I think the big clients that we've gotten have mostly been from word of mouth, but I think there's definitely an opportunity there, but just a lot different from what we've been doing. So I can't necessarily advise people on how to do it, but from my experience dealing with it over the last couple of years, it's definitely a lot more personal connections than anything, and it's a much more difficult process to even be considered for enterprise client. It's just a very, very long journey that they go through making a decision. Obviously, like if IBM wants a new website, they're not gonna call up an agency and then next week sign the contract and say we're ready to go. So it's definitely a different process.
Yeah, it makes sense because I see many digital agencies get to a point of maybe $500,000 in annual revenue, maybe like $1 million, and sort of get stuck there because it's difficult for them to go and get bigger clients or go and expand further. So the advice is then to try to network, try to get some word of mouth.
I definitely wouldn't tell an agency that's at $500,000 and trying to grow to your keys to go network and to get big clients, because it's a very long tail process. Ultimately, I think you'll get them connections and bigger clients, but definitely a long time. We have some bigger clients that it took them 2 years to make a decision on what agency to go to. We have some that have 5 or 10-year contracts with their agencies, and about 2-3 years before the contract's up is when they start doing research. So definitely for a small agency that's trying to grow, it's going to be. I mean, you could get lucky, right? You could go to like to a hotel bar and like meet someone there and hit it off and like get a big client. But I don't know if I would necessarily recommend that as the main strategy. What's interesting is a couple of people that I've known that are, so I'm not a salesperson, but a couple of people I've known that are in the sales space, like lifetime, like salespeople, like hardcore salespeople. They've always told me stories about making amazing sales, making amazing connections, literally like in hotel lobbies. Like I know someone that specifically he would go to like a Ritz-Carlton hotel lobby. Like for drinks to meet people, even if he doesn't stay at the hotel, that's what he'll do.
Yeah.
Or for example, always book first class flights, because other than it being more comfortable, the other people you wind up with sitting next to in that area are more likely to be business contacts or things like that. So there's definitely, I think, tips and tricks of the sales profession. I don't think I'm enough of a salesperson to be handing those off, although I really like the fancy hotel lobbies and first class scenario. But I think my advice for the small business, for the small agencies or medium agencies that are at $500,000, $1 million, $2 million sales and are trying to grow, I don't think you necessarily need to all of a sudden start getting bigger clients. I think you keep growing with the way you've been growing before, and that's what we've been doing. We've been, I think, in the Inc. 5000, they measure 3-year growth. We've been at 100% 3-year growth for 3 consecutive years now. So every 3 years, our company doubles in size. And none of it's been from any big clients. I think it's been literally just doing a good job at what we do. I think with that comes a lot of challenges as well. I think, like you were saying, I think the $500,000 mark is a very big challenge to jump over. I attend a lot of events, like Google events, because we're a Google channel partner, and we work with a lot of companies that attend events where there's a lot of other agencies there. And I hear all the time people are stuck at about like the $500,000, $1 million mark. And it's just a big jump. And the reason it's a big jump is because at $500,000 in revenue, you're managing the team completely yourself, and you could be involved in everything yourself. The next jump after that is you really can't be. You could touch almost every part of your business at the next jump, but you're not going to be involved and be able to be the salesperson, the project manager, and the quality assurance and the developer. So I think that's a big jump for people in general to take, to go from like having the 3-person company, 5-person company, and be able to control everything, be involved in everything, to literally start creating levels of management and processes that allow the company to operate without them being involved. So I think that's the big jump. I think the level we're heading at right now is the next big one, as I've been attending some events with bigger agencies. I've heard a lot of people tell me that the jump we're about to make is the next big one, going from, we're at 90-something employees now. Let's say if we double again in 3 years to go to 200, right? People say that's also a very, very big jump, even bigger than the first one. There was a guy I was speaking from Australia. So he runs, I won't disclose it just not to embarrass him, but he runs in the domaining space, a very, very big company. They're in Australia. They have 500 employees, 600 employees. He was telling me a story that they grew very quickly from 50 to 100 and then 200 plus company very quickly. And there was one point where he came in on the weekend to go to his office to check something at the office building, and the security guard outside didn't know who he was and called the police on him. And he didn't know the security guy either, and was like literally an employee of the company, the security person. And he just grew so quickly that it was scary that he obviously, when you have 200 employees, you're not going to know all the employees, and they're not going to know you either. So I think that's after the jump to creating layers and processes and putting managers in place and good staff in place, jump we're about to make I think is also scary, where if we double in size, it's definitely going to be very hard for me to be involved in anything, let alone know what everyone's doing and know who everyone is. And hopefully I don't get like arrested coming into the office on the weekend.
Yeah, I remember I saw a video. I think it was an advertising video that you did for your company, or it even mentioned that you were considering doing a TV show about your company at some point. So there is a video there. Your team is playing ball in the office, and then you come in angry and take the ball and throw it away and just tell everyone to go back to work. Is that what management is like or was like?
I think that's definitely what management is and was like. So when we just started the company in 2011, it was started. I started with me and my brother, but a lot of the people came in from that he knew from Cornell. So it was a lot of like recent grads. So it was definitely a different atmosphere, and it took us a while to actually make it so work is both fun and we do good work. And if clients come in, they're not scared that people are like drinking, playing poker, which I think was in the video. But definitely in the beginning, you could imagine I'm 6.5 years younger than my brother, and a lot of the people came in from his grade. So you could imagine all the younger college grads coming in. They really love being there. They really love what we were doing, but maybe a little bit too much. It became literally they were to work all the time. We had people that would sleep there. We had people that slept in the office. But it was like very, very fun atmosphere, and it was before we started creating like the processes and the really everything that we've put in place over the last couple of years to really tighten up the process and allow us to grow. If we were like that with 100 employees, it obviously wouldn't have worked. I think we had like 12 people at the time, but the video is really cool. It's funny. I should probably take it down, but while I haven't, if you Google it around, I think it's still on YouTube. But it was 2011, so it was before all of that kind of culture was more popular. It was literally, I haven't seen it, but people tell me it's similar to a Silicon Valley TV show, but it was literally like very techie, young people and fun atmosphere. But I like your metaphor of being a boss. I think that is what it's like, taking the ball away after they're having too much fun. Unfortunately, that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years here. But I think running the company, you definitely have to balance the fun. If your employees are not happy coming to work, there's no way you're gonna produce any kind of good product. Just no way. It's not. No matter what business you're on. If you're products, you could get away with a little bit, but any service business, right? Everyone in our office, everyone behind me interacts with customers. Everyone like coming into office pissed off each day and miserable to be here, it's gonna be terrible for a company. So it's all about creating a fun culture for people to love coming to work, love being here, and at the same time not going as extreme as when we just started the company and it was like a giant frat party.
So do all these people in the video still work for the company?
A lot of them do. I would say a little more than half do. A couple of people, actually there was a period where a couple of people went off and started their own agencies just because they saw the success we were having and they thought that they'll go and do it on their own. Not to name any names, not to go into details, but unfortunately it didn't really work out for them. I think 3 different people tried it different times. And the reason is because it takes a lot of work to run an agency. And I think a lot more than people realize. There's so many small things that go into it, from like the financial stuff to like the bureaucracy, where like there's government forms to do and this and that, and dealing with customers and operations, that it's very hard for one person to really do it.
Yeah.
From the inside, it might seem like it's like easy, but there's so many things that go on behind the scenes, and it's one of the reasons we've been doing so well with our customers. And our customers are so happy because a lot of times the option of a small business, right? So you're a small business, you have a couple employees, you want to do website, you want to do marketing, you want to do these things. So what are your options? So you could hire someone internally, which is what a lot of people do. The problem becomes you're hiring one person and you want them to do design, development, SEO, pay-per-click, like, right? There's no one person that could do all of that well. Where we come in is we have all these different teams that do these things, and we really are able to provide all these services. So I think I went off on a very far tangent, but at least half of the people are still with the company. We have a lot of those original people moved on to executive positions or are now managing teams here. So for people who were excited to stay here and worked on the company and helped it succeed, they're definitely here. People who pursued other opportunities or tried things on their own, they're obviously not, but we've always wished the best to anyone in that scenario.
So I'd love to talk about your hiring and management processes. You mentioned that you've now kind of improved them. Are
Yes.
are you using any management systems or any hiring processes, any specific books or methodologies that you can recommend? That's personally, that's something I'm very much interested in right now as well for my company.
Yeah, great question. So I'm personally, both me and my brother are probably not very into processes. And because of that, I think it took us a while to get to that level. We have other people on the executive team that helped really push for that. So in terms of processes, we literally have now a handbook for every position. So every position, project manager, PPC person, SEO person, salesperson, every position has a full handbook of like over 100 pages of literally information of what to do in what scenarios. So that itself has really helped tremendously in everything from new hiring and letting them review this to people really knowing what the expectations are and what they're supposed to do. So I think that was a very, very big step. Starting training and having internally train all the employees in different things was a very big step. I don't think we follow any specific like rule book or methodology or anything like that. I think we've had the opportunity to kind of develop it internally over time. We've been lucky enough to grow at a level where we're growing. So we have these opportunities to make all of this for all the new employees and everything. But at the same time, we're not like tripling in size every week, right? We're not super growing. So we've been growing at a comfortable organic pace that has allowed us to develop all of this. Hiring side has been very, very tricky also, and I don't think we have we don't have an official process in place that I could really say like this is it. This is what you have to do. But we try to let each department kind of manage itself and limiting micromanagement and really letting people succeed. So each department really does hiring on their own with guidance from management and everything. But it's hiring has been tricky because at the end of the day, we don't make a product. We don't make like a shoe behind the scenes in a factory. We sell the people at the company. So the employees are like the most valuable asset. And it's very important to have not only people who are knowledgeable, right, and can talk to our customer, or can talk to our clients and help our clients, but also fit in culturally. So it's unfortunately been a lot of interviewing. Like we've had to interview a lot of people. And at the same time, over the last 2 years, it's gotten a lot more competitive. A lot of good people we've made offers to have told us that they have like 3, 4, 5 other offers, which wasn't like that 5 years ago, wasn't like that 6 years ago. So it's definitely been challenging. It's just been hours of interviewing lots and lots and lots of people to find a good fit.
Is it all in US or do you also have some offices and employees abroad?
We have 5 offices internationally, and those are all their own unique challenges. My main visibility is the office here. My brother heads up the overseas offices, so I don't have as much insight, but I know there's also hiring challenges, and it's every country has its own challenges. For example, there's certain countries where if you fire someone, you have to give them a certain amount of notice, and they still work for you while you do that, right? I don't know if that sounds weird to you. In the U.S., it sounds a little weird. In the U.S., it's called at-will employment. So in the U.S., in most cases, anyone could quit at any time, and you could fire them at any time. So if anyone really does a really, really bad job, you could fire them. We don't do it often. I think we do a very good job at hiring the right people. Internationally, it's a little more challenging, but there's literally countries where the rule is you can't fire on the spot. So I think every country has its own challenges with hiring.
So I'd love to get a little bit more into the advanced details of the things that you guys do and talk about SEO and PPC and some current trends that you are seeing in digital marketing. So I know that you have a close relationship with Google and you guys organize events together and you have a pretty solid budget that you are managing with AdWords.
Yeah.
So in terms of SEO, what kind of things are you doing? Like obviously you cannot do any black hat stuff.
Yes.
But what are the things that you do and you can recommend people to do on a kind of more advanced level beyond the basics of just writing good content?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have a very good relationship with Google. We're in a special program with them where we get a lot of support from them, a lot of insight from them. At the same time, like you said, definitely can't. Either way, I would not recommend doing black hat stuff, but more so for us than anyone else. I wouldn't jeopardize the relationship with Google and all the information they give us to try circumvent anything. On the SEO side, what we do, so I think in general in our business, everything we do is really centered around transparency, just because in most cases in our world it's not, especially in the SEO world. There's very few SEO companies, maybe more so now, but let's say 5-6 years ago, that you would go to, you would pay them, and then you would say, tell me exactly what you're doing, right? The big sales pitch from like all these SEO companies used to be like, you pay me this, and then your rankings will magically go up, and what are you going to be doing with that money? Oh, I can't tell you. That's like the mystery box. Like I have no idea. If I pay twice more, will I get twice more? Oh, I can't tell you that. Just pay me twice more and we'll see what happens. So the way we operate is literally the complete opposite, and we have since the day we started. And the reason I'll go into it is because I think it'll help answer your question of what people could be doing, whether themselves or with an agency. So SEO, and I won't claim to be the expert in this. I live in the pay-per-click world more than the SEO world, and we have SEO experts that could tell the story better, and salespeople who could sell the story better. But I'll tell you the way we do it from a business perspective. So we sell hours. So literally, if you think about it, doing SEO at the core is literally putting the hours in. If you're not doing black ad, right? Like if you, it's not. I won't talk about the getting a software and hitting submit and submitting to spam blog posts. Like if you want to do real SEO, it's about hours put in. If you're not putting in the hours, you're not going to get the results. So that's literally the way we sell it. So people buy hours from us. So they would buy $50, 50 hours per month, and we would spend 50 hours per month doing SEO work. And what we usually break it up into is 3 pillars. So number one is the technical on-site. So that's usually front-loaded. So it won't even be the monthly hours. We usually throw in certain hours at the start to really go through their site, do a technical audit, fix all the metas, fix anything that's literally stopping their website from ranking better. That itself is a whole science. We have an employee whose job is to follow all the latest best practices on technical things on the website that Google wants you to have this way versus this way, how to improve mobile page on-site speed and all that. So that itself is a very important pillar that similarly to the way we do it, I think other businesses should be very front-loaded. You should do that first before doing anything else, right? Because if your site, we've had clients come to us that literally they have a robots.txt file that blocks Google, right? They just don't know. They had a developer make a website on the dev space, they block Google, which makes sense. And then they launch it live and they forgot to change it. So their website blocks Google. So if you don't fix the technical things, no matter what you do for SEO, if you're blocking Google, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
So the first big pillar is the technical stuff, which we do front loaded. After that, we literally split the hours between two things. So we do content writing and link building. Literally, those are the pillars of what we do, and the pillars of SEO, and the pillars of what will make your website rank higher. So for content writing, we have an entire content team. Its job is to create unique content. Literally, people come into the office and they just love to write, and they write content. And every month we come up with a content schedule and post on the website. Similar to how we do it, any business could really do it themselves. And that's the reason I'm going through this, and the reason we tell our clients exactly what we do, because there's really no secret sauce to Google. If you fix technical things on your website, you have unique content, and you have authoritative websites linking to you, you'll rank higher. If anyone says there's like some secret sauce that you pay me 50 grand, I'll pour on your website, it'll be better. It's literally putting in the work. And the reason I tell people this, and the reason people still come to me even after I tell them that you need to do content link building, is because the hours of work. Someone running a business, they have to decide themselves whether internally they're going to hire someone to do all this work, or they're going to hire an agency to do the work. But either way, it's literally like manpower that needs to be done. So create the content, and then on the link building side, it's all outreach. So we do an analysis of which websites link to your competitors. Those are usually the lowest hanging fruit, and then we do outreach. We email and call those other websites and say, hey, you're linking to this guy. Why don't you link to this guy? For example, we had a limo company. Their biggest competitor was linked from JFK's website, like the airport. Contacted the airport, took a while of bugging them. Finally found like the person in charge. It's funny how in a lot of these organizations, no one knows who's in charge of the website. They're like, oh yeah, I could do it, but I have no idea who has access to this. And we got them a link from JFK's website, right? So it's things like that. And can anyone do it? Definitely anyone could do it, but it's literally the hours of work. We certainly have advantages from our content team, has just written about everything and it's very knowledgeable. Our link building team knows exactly how to contact people. We have a process where they follow up at certain intervals. We have already lists of websites in place that have added links. So if we get JFK, for example, to add a link for us, we keep that in our own internal list. So in the future, if there's another limo company or whatever it is, we know that these guys, we know who to contact pretty much. So there's a small advantage to us doing it for sure. But that's I think those are the pillars to SEO, and anyone could really be doing it, just a lot of hours. There's really, outside for Black Hat, which I won't recommend to anyone, it's literally putting in the hours.
So in terms of, outreach is the main white hat technique right now as well. And that's what we do as well quite a lot. But these days, it's kind of difficult to get a link for free. And a lot of people ask you to pay. So is that still white hat? Can you pay them a little bit to link to your website, or is it not?
Google says no.
No, never?
Google
what
says not that.
So then you reach out to clients, well, not JFK, but let's say it's someone who has a website about airplanes. Yep. Or limos, and and they say, well, we can list you, but you got to pay us like $200. You're gonna just say no, right?
No, we don't. So we never, because of that, it takes, so yes, you could do that. So there's two things you could do. A, you could do reciprocal, right? I'll link you, you link me. B, I'll pay $200 and you link me. Both practices Google frowns upon, and both ways we do not do. I won't say that you can do it. I don't think Google will go and penalize you. Like, they're not gonna find out that you send someone like $200 of Bitcoins, right? Like, I see the transaction in the ledger. So you certainly could. We just don't do it as a practice because it's against Google's policies, and it's not the best way to be doing things. But because of that, it takes us a lot longer to acquire.
That makes sense. And if you ask someone, would you publish our article, and you give them a long, really nice article, and then you ask them to publish the article and link to your website from that article, and then you don't pay them, but you kind of give them that content for free. So is that white hat? Is that okay to do nowadays?
Yeah,
Like
that's a great question. So yeah, it's a great question. So I think the way I interpret Google's policies, I think that's okay to do. We haven't been doing it often. We've been testing it out a little bit here and there, just because it's really in a gray area, and at any point Google could come out and say, "Hey guys, you're not allowed to do this." So we've recently, as far as I know, we've been experimenting with it, but we haven't rolled it out to any major customers. But it's certainly, I think the way I interpret Google's rules, that is okay to do. But of course, you could also interpret it saying that you're paying them, whether it's not money, you're paying them in content, right? It's still paying them. So it's in a gray area. But I know that's been very popular just from the fact that for the last 5 years, every day I get like 50 emails of people sending me content to publish. So like spam coming in. So it's I know it's done. I know it's pretty popular. I would not make that like your sole source of generating links.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'm curious if you have many clients that come to you after they have a Google penalty, an algorithmic penalty, or a manual penalty. And is that something you deal with often?
Yeah, so great question. So it was a lot when we just started our company, when my brother was running the SEO company he had, that was very popular. So we had two things that were very popular that we don't really do anymore. Number one is the SEO penalty. And I don't know whether it's just people don't get penalized as much or they do something else, but we really don't even have that many people come to us for it. We used to. The other big thing was reputation management. So those are the two I would say like distant cousins of like traditional SEO. Like we do like almost everything we do on the SEO side is what I call traditional SEO. These are like distant cousins. So we certainly have done it in the past. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do and to sell. A lot of these people coming with Google penalties want us to say like, oh yeah, just pay us this and we'll get you unpenalized, right? But then no one can make that guarantee for you. Same for, I'm sorry?
You do have that special relationship with Google. You probably
yeah,
just
I
can't
can't just like pick up the phone and call up Mr. Google and be like, I'm doing this site. No, even I can't make you that guarantee that a domain that's penalized could get unpenalized. And similar for reputation management, people call up, and we've had people, high-profile individuals, politicians, call up and say, "I have all this bad stuff about me when I search my name. Can you make it all go away?" And we just don't work in that business. But I followed up with a couple of them after the fact because I know they've wound up working with other agencies and all have had bad experiences. At the end of the day, it's anyone that says they'll make all this go away for this money or they'll get you unpenalized really can't make that guarantee. Yes, sometimes they can. There's a lot on the technical SEO side that you can do to figure out why the penalty happened. You could submit requests to Google. There's really a lot you can do. We just don't deal with it anymore. Haven't for a long time just because it's outside of our SMB focus. But I know there's a lot of every time you run up to a US election cycle, a lot of politicians are very worried about the negative press about them on the internet.
Yeah, makes sense. So you've had a 100% growth in the last 3 years, and it seems like you are still growing. So you mentioned that you'd like to get to 200 employees. And is that the current plan, just to keep growing and get bigger and bigger?
I think that yes, I think that's the plan. I think the plan is twofold: to keep growing, but at the same time keep providing the same quality service. I'm very worried about growing too fast and at the same time not growing fast enough. With my first business with T35 Hosting, it was the not fast enough extreme. I had a lot of opportunity to take on equity and investors to grow the business quicker, and just I wasn't not something I was interested in. I didn't want to give up the equity. I didn't want to really rush the process, the business, and because of that, it really hurt the business. And by the time we were growing quicker, you already had the GoDaddies of the world with millions and billions invested. So I definitely, in almost any industry, you really don't want to completely not grow. Like I have conversations with people who run agencies and who run other things, and sometimes they're like, I'm fine where I am, and just leave it the way I am. I'm good. Let's leave it here. A lot of times that doesn't end well, because even if you're okay where you are and you don't want to grow or do anything new or anything different, your competitors won't be, right? And eventually they'll do something better, they'll do something faster, the economies of scale. So we definitely want to grow. I'm comfortable at the pace we've been growing, which is about doubling every 3 years, maybe a little bit faster than that. But definitely want to keep growing, at the same time deliver quality service. So we have all 5-star reviews online, everyone. We haven't had anyone really that hasn't benefited from and has not appreciated the service we provide. And that's the one thing I really am very close to as we grow. If growing too fast means we sacrifice that, then I don't want to grow that fast. So the goal is definitely 3 years from now is to have 200 employees, probably even sooner at our current pace.
Well, that's a great goal to have, and definitely business is a process. Businesses are dynamic. You cannot stay in one place. You either grow or you just become irrelevant.
Yeah.
So it's it's been great talking to you, and thanks for sharing. And finally, how can people learn more about your company, and how can they get in touch?
Yeah, great question. So SmartSites.com, you could go straight to the website. Better yet, I would recommend people not to push Google, even though I love Google. They could go on Google and search about SmartSites. That's even better, because there's one thing of getting information that we're showing to you about our website, about our company, but I think it's a different perspective to see what other people are saying and all the information that exists about us. So definitely Google around about SmartSites, and to contact us, pretty simple, contact@smartsites.com, where you could fill out a form on the website, and I think the phone number is there as well.
Well, thank you, Alex. Pleasure to talk to you, and looking forward to meeting up next time in New York.
Yeah.
Domain Magnet is a leader in buying and selling online businesses, with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnet.com for more details.